The council chamber was massive, carved from black stone that seemed to absorb light. Supreme Overlord Vrekthar sat on his throne, looking down at the assembled military commanders and advisors. His eyes glowed with a dark red color, typical of his species. Around him, holographic displays showed star maps and planetary systems, each one representing another world the Valorian collective had conquered. Intelligence Officer Kindara stood before the council, her hands trembling slightly as she prepared her report. She knew what she was about to say would not be well received. The hologram behind her shifted to show a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. "This is Earth," she said, her voice steady despite her nervousness. "The third planet in a system they call Sol. Our scouts have been observing them for several years now. The inhabitants call themselves humans. They appear to be a young species, barely having achieved basic space travel." Fleet Commander Zalmarath leaned forward, studying the image with casual interest. "Their military capabilities?" he asked. Kindara pulled up more data. "Limited. We have detected basic energy weapons, chemical propulsion systems for their spacecraft, and some primitive orbital stations. They have not expanded beyond their own solar system. Their largest vessels appear to be mining ships and transport craft." Several council members laughed. One elder warrior slapped his armored knee. "Another easy conquest. This will barely require a standard fleet." Kindara hesitated. "Supreme Overlord, there are some anomalies in our data. There are gaps in our surveillance records, energy signatures that we cannot fully explain. You recommend what?" Vrekthar's voice cut through the chamber like a blade. "That we fear a species that has barely left their own planet? That we who have conquered 1,000 worlds should be cautious of primitives? I only suggest that we gather more intelligence before." "Enough." Vrekthar stood, his massive form dominating the room. "We have wasted enough time on this minor world. Fleet Commander Zalmarath, you will take a standard subjugation force and bring these humans to heel. I want their planet under our control within one cycle." Zalmarath bowed. "It will be done, Supreme Overlord." Kindara wanted to protest further, but she knew it was useless. The decision had been made. She could only watch as the council dismissed her concerns and began planning the invasion of Earth. On Earth, deep beneath the mountains of North America, Admiral Taeyang Kim stood in the operations center of Earth Defense Command. The room was filled with holographic displays and tactical screens, each one monitored by skilled operators. The atmosphere was calm but focused. A junior officer approached quickly. "Admiral, our deep space sensors have detected something. Multiple contacts entering the edge of the solar system. The signatures match those we've been tracking for the past 3 years." Admiral Kim nodded slowly. "The Valorians? How many ships?" "Approximately 300 capital vessels, with support craft bringing the total to over 1,000 ships." "Sir." Dr. Haywan Park entered the command center, her tablet displaying complex data streams. She was a thin woman with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "Admiral, they're using a standard intimidation formation. This is exactly what they did at the Keltor system and the Praxis colonies. So they think we're primitives," Admiral Kim said. "Good. That means our deception has worked perfectly." Secretary General Daun Quan arrived, surrounded by her security detail. Her expression was grave. "Admiral Doctor, what are we looking at?" Admiral Kim gestured to the main display, which showed the Valorian fleet advancing toward the solar system. "They've taken the bait, Madam Secretary. Everything we've done for the past 50 years, all the carefully staged sightings, all the fake technology signatures we've been broadcasting, it all worked. They think we're easy prey," Dr. Park spoke up. "We knew first contact would eventually happen. When we detected the Valorian scout ships in 2295, we had a choice: reveal our true capabilities or continue to hide. We chose to hide and prepare. And what exactly have we been hiding?" Secretary General Quan asked, though she already knew the answer. Admiral Kim touched a control and the display changed. New icons appeared throughout the solar system, hundreds of them. Every mining station they've seen is actually a military vessel in disguise. Every orbital platform has weapons they can't imagine. We've built defensive installations inside every major moon and asteroid in the system, and our technology is not primitive, Madam Secretary. It's 50 years ahead of theirs. The Secretary General studied the display in silence. Finally, she spoke. "I had hoped we would have more time, that perhaps we could make peaceful contact first." "We tried, ma'am," Dr. Park said quietly.
We sent diplomatic messages.
They ignored them. The Valorians only understand strength and submission. They've made their intentions clear. How long until they reach Earth? Quan asked. At their current speed, approximately 18 hours, Admiral Kim replied. They'll cross Neptune's orbit in 6 hours. Secretary General Quan took a deep breath. Very well, Admiral. You have authorization to activate all defense protocols, but I want to try one more time to avoid bloodshed. Send them a message. Make it clear that we do not want war, but we will defend ourselves. Yes, ma'am, Admiral Kim said, though his expression suggested he knew it would be useless. On Mars, Captain Jiwoo Lee sat in the cockpit of her fighter, running pre-flight checks. Around her, the rest of her squadron did the same. They were stationed inside Olympus Mons, the massive volcano that had been converted into a hidden military base. Her fighter looked sleek and deadly, though to Valorian sensors it would appear to be just another mining shuttle. Her communications officer spoke over the squadron channel. Captain, we're receiving the diplomatic transmission to the Valorian fleet now. Jiwoo listened as Secretary General Kwan's message played. It was calm, reasonable, offering peace and mutual cooperation. The response from the Valorians came quickly. Fleet Commander Zalmarath's voice was cold and contemptuous. Primitive humans, you have one rotation to surrender unconditionally. You will provide tribute, resources, and labor to the Valorian collective. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your world. This is your only warning. Jiwoo felt anger rise in her chest. One of her pilots spoke over the channel. Captain, they really think we're going to just give up? They're about to learn a very hard lesson, Jiwoo replied. All pilots continue preparations. We launch in 5 hours. Back at Earth Defense Command, Admiral Kim received the Valorian ultimatum. He looked at Secretary General Quan and Dr. Park. They've made their choice. Quan nodded, her face showing both sadness and determination. Then we make ours. Admiral, you may proceed with Operation Silent Thunder. Admiral Kim turned to his command staff. Activate all defensive systems. Inform all fleet commanders to move to battle stations. Set Condition 1 throughout the solar system, and somebody send a message to the Valorians. What should the message say, sir? An officer asked. Admiral Kim smiled grimly. Tell them they should have done more research. Tell them that humanity does not surrender. And tell them that they are about to discover why you should never underestimate your enemy. Throughout the solar system, hidden military installations came to life. Weapons that had been concealed for decades powered up. Ships that appeared to be civilian craft shed their disguises and revealed their true nature. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for 50 years. The Valorians thought they were invading a primitive world. They were about to learn the truth. The trap was set. All that remained was for the Valorians to walk into it. The message reached Supreme Overlord Vrekthar in the middle of the night. His time. He read the casualty reports 3 times, refusing to believe what he was seeing. 600 ships lost. 600. Against a species that was supposed to be primitive and helpless. This is impossible, he said to his advisors, who had been summoned urgently to his chambers. Our intelligence was certain. The humans have basic technology, limited weapons, no significant military force. One of his military advisors, an old warrior named Thexnar, spoke carefully. Supreme Overlord, it appears our intelligence was deliberately deceived. The humans have been hiding their true capabilities for decades. They are far more advanced than we believed. Frekthar's rage exploded. He swept his arm across the table, sending data tablets crashing to the floor. Then we send more ships. We send our finest warriors, the Crimson Fleet. They will crush these humans and show the galaxy that the Valorian collective cannot be defeated by trickery. My lord, Thexnar said quietly, perhaps we should consider negotiations. If the humans have such advanced weapons as silence, Vrekthar roared. The Valorian collective does not negotiate with inferiors. We do not retreat. We do not show weakness. Send the Crimson Fleet immediately. I want every ship, every soldier, every weapon we have sent to that system. I want the humans destroyed. I want their planet turned to ash. I want them erased from existence. The advisors bowed and hurried to carry out his orders. Within hours, the Crimson Fleet, the elite force of the Valorian military, was mobilizing. These were the veterans of 100 conquests, equipped with the most powerful weapons the collective possessed. Vrekthar sent them with explicit orders. Show no mercy, take no prisoners, destroy everything. The Crimson Fleet arrived in the solar system 2 days later. They bypassed Neptune and Saturn entirely, having learned from the First Fleet's mistakes. Their strategy was to strike directly at Jupiter, where their intelligence suggested humanity had significant installations. What they found was beyond their worst nightmares. The entire Jupiter system was a fortress. Every major moon housed military installations. The planet's powerful magnetic field had been weaponized into a massive electromagnetic pulse system. And hidden within the gas giant's radiation belts was the largest fleet of warships humanity had ever constructed. Commander Hyun-Woo Choi stood in the command center on Ganymede, Jupiter's largest moon. Around him, hundreds of officers monitored the approaching Crimson Fleet. "All stations report ready," he said calmly. "Admiral Kim, the enemy is entering the engagement zone." From Earth Defense Command, Admiral Kim's voice came through clearly. "Execute Operation Thunderstorm. Show them what human military power really looks like." The Valorian Crimson Fleet detected human ships emerging from Jupiter's radiation belts. Their sensors showed a force of approximately 200 vessels. The Valorian commander smiled. His fleet numbered over 3,000 ships. He had overwhelming numerical superiority. He ordered the attack. The Crimson Fleet advanced in perfect formation, their weapons charging. But as they committed to the engagement, everything changed. The 200 human ships were just the beginning. More ships emerged from hiding positions all around Jupiter's moons. From Europa, Io, Callisto, and dozens of smaller moons. From the asteroid belt. From positions hidden by Jupiter's storms. Within minutes, the tactical display showed over 1,000 human vessels surrounding the Valorian fleet. Dr. Haewon Park activated the Jovian defense grid from her station on Earth. This was her newest creation, a network of quantum entanglement weapons that allowed instantaneous coordinated fire across the entire Jupiter system. Every human ship was connected through quantum communication, allowing them to act as a single unified force. The battle began. The human ships moved with perfect synchronization, their AI-assisted combat systems processing tactical data faster than any biological crew could match. The Valorians had superior numbers, but the humans had superior technology, superior coordination, and they knew the battlefield perfectly. Captain Ji-Woo Lee led her squadron in another devastating attack run. Her fighters now had upgraded weapons, capable of making short-range quantum jumps. She would target a Valorian cruiser, fire her weapons, then instantly jump to a new position before the enemy could return fire. It was like fighting ghosts. "Target locked," her weapons officer reported. Firing. Her squadron's concentrated fire struck a Valorian battleship. The shields held for a moment, then collapsed under the sustained assault. The battleship's hull breached in multiple locations. Atmosphere vented into space. Then Jiwoo gave the order to jump and her squadron vanished, reappearing 3,000 kilometers away behind another Valorian vessel, the Valorian Crimson Fleet. Despite being the elite of their military, found themselves being systematically destroyed. Their weapons could not track targets that could teleport. Their shields could not withstand the coordinated fire from the quantum entanglement network. Their tactics, perfected over centuries of conquest, were useless against an enemy who fought with such overwhelming technological advantage. Supreme Overlord Vrekthar watched the battle through long-range communications, his face growing paler with each passing minute. His finest fleet, his most powerful weapons, his veteran warriors, all of them were being destroyed. The humans were not just winning, they were dominating completely. Intelligence Officer Kindara, who had been brought back to the homeworld to explain the first disaster, spoke the truth he did not want to hear. "Supreme Overlord, we must accept reality. The humans are not primitives. They may be more technologically advanced than we are. Their weapons operate on principles our scientists do not understand. Their tactics are flawless. Continuing this war will only result in more casualties." "What are you suggesting?" Vrekthar asked, his voice dangerous. "Immediate withdrawal. Open diplomatic channels. Negotiate peace before we lose everything." Vrekthar stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed, a sound without humor. "Negotiate with them? Do you know what that would mean? Every subject species we control would see us as weak. Every rival power would sense opportunity. The Valorian collective would crumble. Better that than extinction," Kindara said quietly. Vrekthar's expression hardened. "If we cannot conquer them, then no one will have them. Activate the planetary devastators." Kindara felt horror wash over her. "My lord, those weapons have not been used in centuries. They are designed to crack worlds open, to destroy entire planets. The Galactic Council banned them as crimes against all life. I do not care about the Galactic Council, Rekthar said coldly. Send the order. If the humans will not submit, their world will be destroyed. Let it serve as a warning to any who dare challenge the Valorian collective. The order reached the surviving Crimson Fleet vessels during the height of the battle at Jupiter. 3 massive ships, each one larger than anything else in the fleet, began to disengage from combat. These were the planetary devastators, ancient weapons from the early days of the Valorian collective, when they had been more ruthless and less concerned about their galactic image. Each devastator carried weapons capable of destabilizing a planet's core, causing massive tectonic activity that would tear continents apart. They had been used only twice in recorded history, both times to make examples of worlds that had resisted too strongly. The results had been horrifying, genocides witnessed by the entire galaxy. At Earth Defense Command, alarms blared as sensors detected the energy signatures of the devastators powering up. Dr. Park's face went white. Admiral, they're activating planet-killer weapons. If those vessels reach Earth, they can destroy our entire world. Secretary General Dayun Kwan was present for the briefing. She looked at Admiral Kim with grave eyes. Admiral, they have crossed a line. They are willing to commit genocide. What are our options? Admiral Kim's voice was cold and hard. We have one option, Madam Secretary. We stop holding back. We show them the weapon we hoped we would never have to use. We end this invasion permanently. Dr. Park knew immediately what he meant. The Cascade device. But Admiral, if we use that weapon, it will not just destroy their fleet. It will propagate through their entire communication network. It could reach their homeworld, their colonies, everything connected to their systems. I know, Admiral Kim said, but they have chosen to make this a war of extermination. They are willing to destroy Earth and everyone on it. We will not allow that to happen, no matter the cost. Secretary General Kwan closed her eyes briefly, the weight of the decision crushing her. When she opened them, they were filled with tears, but her voice was steady. Authorization granted. May whatever gods exist forgive us for what we are about to do. Dr. Park moved to her terminal with heavy steps. The Cascade device was her creation, developed in absolute secrecy as humanity's ultimate deterrent. It was based on research into quantum foam manipulation, the fundamental fabric of reality itself. Once activated and transmitted through a faster-than-light communication system, it would spread like a virus, destabilizing the quantum states of all technology it encountered. Ships would tear themselves apart at the molecular level. Stations would collapse. Even planetary infrastructure would fail catastrophically. The Valorian fleet moved through space like a swarm of metal insects. Their formation was perfect, designed to strike fear into anyone who saw it. Fleet Commander Zalmorath stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue planet grow larger on the viewing screen. Everything was proceeding according to plan. Commander, we are approaching the orbit of the 8th planet, his tactical officer reported. Our scouts have detected a small defensive force near the 7th planet. 5 vessels, primitive design. Zalmorath smiled. So they do have some fight in them. Send forward Squadron 3. Destroy those ships quickly. Let the humans see what happens to those who resist the collective. Intelligence Officer Kindara watched from her station, her unease growing. Something felt wrong. Why would the humans place such a small force so far from their homeworld? It made no strategic sense, unless it was bait. Commander, she said carefully, perhaps we should scan those vessels more thoroughly before engaging. We have scanned them, Zalmorath replied dismissively. They are outdated ships with basic weapons. This will be over in moments. The Valorian squadron accelerated toward the human vessels. As they came into weapons range, they opened fire. Energy beams lanced through space, striking the human ships. The vessels exploded in bursts of light and debris. Target destroyed, the tactical officer announced. The humans offered no resistance. This will be even easier than... He never finished his sentence. The space around Neptune suddenly erupted with activity. What had appeared to be empty space was suddenly filled with weapon platforms, hundreds of them, materializing as their camouflage systems deactivated. The destroyed human ships had been decoys filled with sensors and transmitters. All ships evasive maneuvers. Zalmorath shouted, but it was too late. The quantum displacement cannons fired. These were Dr. Haywan Park's masterpiece. weapons that operated on principles the Valorians had never encountered. The beams didn't just destroy ships, they removed them from existence, creating brief tears in space-time that swallowed entire vessels. The Valorian forward fleet never had a chance. Ships simply vanished, leaving no debris, no survivors, nothing. In 15 seconds, 30% of Zalmorath's advance force ceased to exist. On the flagship bridge, chaos erupted. Officers shouted reports over each other. Screens showed impossible readings. The tactical display was updating so fast it became almost unreadable. "What is happening?" Zalmorath demanded. "What kind of weapons are those?" "Commander, our sensors cannot identify the weapon type," the science officer replied, his voice shaking. "The energy signatures are unlike anything in our database. They appear to be manipulating quantum foam at the subatomic level." Kindara felt cold fear settle in her chest. "Commander, we must withdraw immediately." "This is not what we were told. The humans are far more advanced than our intelligence indicated." "Withdraw?" Zalmorath's face twisted with anger. "We do not withdraw from primitives. All ships continue advance. Focus fire on those weapons platforms." But the platforms were already disappearing, jumping away using short-range quantum displacement. The Valorian weapons struck empty space. Meanwhile, more human weapons came online throughout the Neptune system, firing from positions hidden in the planet's moons and within the gas giant's atmosphere itself. At Earth Defense Command, Admiral Tae-Yang Kim watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. The tactical display showed Valorian ships being systematically destroyed or disabled. "Neptune Line is performing as expected," Commander Hyunwoo Choi reported. "Enemy losses at 38% and climbing. Our casualties are 0. Dr. Park stood beside the Admiral, monitoring the weapon systems. The quantum displacement cannons are operating within normal parameters. However, I recommend we begin cycling them soon to prevent overheating." "Agreed," Admiral Kim said. "Activate the Saturn defense grid. Let's see if their commander is smart enough to retreat." The Valorian fleet limped past Neptune, having lost nearly half their forward elements. Zalmorath had finally ordered a tactical retreat from the immediate engagement zone, but he refused to abandon the invasion entirely. Pride and fear of the Supreme Overlord's punishment drove him forward. "We will regroup at the 6th planet," he ordered. "Send scouts ahead to identify all enemy positions. We will not be caught by surprise again." But as the fleet approached Saturn, Captain Jiwoo Lee and her squadron were waiting. Her fighters had launched from Mars hours ago and had been hiding in Saturn's rings, using the ice particles and rock to mask their signatures. "All pilots, this is Falcon Leader." Jiwoo's voice came over the squadron channel. "Weapons free. Execute attack pattern Delta." The human fighters burst from the rings like deadly birds of prey. They moved with impossible agility, their miniaturized fusion drives allowing them to change direction in ways that defied the Valorians' understanding of physics. The Valorian escort ships tried to track them, but the human fighters were simply too fast, too maneuverable. Jiwoo locked onto a Valorian cruiser. Her weapons officer's AI calculated the optimal strike points instantly. She fired, and 3 other fighters in her formation fired at the same moment. Their precision energy beams struck the cruiser's shield generators simultaneously, overwhelming them through perfect coordination. The cruiser's shields collapsed and follow-up strikes tore through its hull. "Target destroyed," her weapons officer reported. Moving to next contact. The battle in Saturn's orbit was brutal and one-sided. The Valorians had never encountered fighters like these. Every human pilot was connected to an advanced combat AI that predicted enemy movements and coordinated attacks with microsecond precision. The fighters could make short quantum jumps appearing behind Valorian ships before their crews could react. In 4 minutes, the engagement was over. 12 Valorian capital ships destroyed. 43 support craft turned into debris. Human losses, none. 2 fighters had minor damage from near misses, but all pilots returned safely to their carriers. On the Valorian flagship, the mood had shifted from confidence to something approaching terror. Officers worked in stunned silence, processing casualty reports that seemed impossible. The fleet that had entered this system numbered over 1,000 ships. In less than 6 hours, they had lost nearly 600 vessels. Zalmorath stared at the tactical display, his face pale. "How is this possible? They are supposed to be primitives. They have technology we have never seen. weapons that break the laws of physics as we understand them. Kindara approached him carefully. Commander, we must face the truth. Every piece of intelligence we gathered about the humans was false. They fed us exactly what they wanted us to see. They have been preparing for this encounter for decades, perhaps longer. We are not fighting primitives. We are fighting a species that may be more technologically advanced than we are. Then what do you suggest? Zalmarath asked, his voice hollow. Retreat immediately. Send word to the Supreme Overlord. Tell him we encountered an enemy far beyond our capabilities. Request reinforcements, or better yet, request that we abandon this invasion entirely. Zalmarath wanted to agree. Every tactical instinct told him to withdraw. But he knew Rekthar. The Supreme Overlord did not accept failure. To retreat without explicit orders would be seen as cowardice. He would be executed and his family would be disgraced. Send a message to the Supreme Overlord, Zalmarath finally said. Inform him of our losses and request additional forces. But we do not retreat. We regroup at the 5th planet and wait for reinforcements. Kindara felt despair wash over her. The commander was making a mistake, but there was nothing she could do. She could only watch as the surviving Valorian ships limped deeper into the solar system, heading toward Jupiter. On Earth, Admiral Kim received reports of the Valorian movements. They're not retreating, he said with a mixture of surprise and concern. They're actually continuing toward Jupiter. Dr. Park frowned. That makes no sense. They must know they're outmatched. Pride, Commander Choi suggested, or fear of their leadership. Either way, they're making a fatal mistake. Admiral Kim nodded slowly. Activate Jupiter Fortress. If they want to continue this fight, we'll show them what humanity is really capable of. But send them one more message. Give them one more chance to surrender and withdraw. Make it clear that continuing will mean total destruction of their fleet. The message was sent. The Valorian response came quickly from Fleet Commander Zalmarath himself. We will never surrender to primitives. The Valorian Collective does not retreat. We will take your world, or we will die trying. Admiral Kim closed his eyes briefly, then opened them with cold determination. So be it, they've made their choice. The 3 planetary devastators pushed through the Jupiter defense zone, their massive shields absorbing punishment that would have destroyed lesser vessels. They were heading toward Mars, where they would position themselves for the final strike against Earth. Behind them, the remains of the Crimson Fleet fought desperately to buy them time. Commander Hyunwoo Choi watched the devastators approach with growing concern. Those ships are too well armored. Our standard weapons are not penetrating their shields effectively. Then we need to get close, Captain Ji-Woo Lee said over the command channel. My squadron can plant quantum charges directly on their hulls. If we can get inside their shield perimeter. It would be a suicide mission, Commander Choi replied. Then it's a good thing we're volunteers, Ji-Woo said. Permission to engage, Commander? Choi looked at Admiral Kim on the main screen. The Admiral nodded slowly. Permission granted, Captain. All other squadrons will provide covering fire. Get in, plant your charges, and get out. That's an order. Understood, sir, Ji-Woo replied. She switched to her squadron channel. All pilots, this is Falcon Leader. We're going in. Target the Devastator's shield generators. Once we're inside their defensive perimeter, plant the quantum charges on their reactor cores. We only get one shot at this, her squadron acknowledged. 20 fighters broke from the main engagement and accelerated toward the Devastators. The massive Valorian ships detected them and opened fire with their defensive weapons. Energy beams filled space, creating a wall of death that the human fighters had to navigate. Ji-Woo's hands moved across her controls with practiced precision. Her fighter twisted and rolled, dodging the incoming fire by fractions of a second. Behind her, other fighters were not so lucky. She saw 2 pilots go down, their ships consumed by Valorian fire. Keep moving, she shouted. Don't give them a clean shot. They reached the first Devastator. Ji-Woo activated her quantum jump drive, teleporting her fighter directly inside the ship's shield perimeter. For a moment, she was right next to the massive hull, close enough to see the individual armor plates. Her weapons officer released the quantum charge, a device that would tunnel through the hull and detonate inside the reactor core. Charge planted, her officer reported. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Her fighter vanished, reappearing several thousand kilometers away. Around the Devastators, other fighters were completing their attacks. But the cost was high. Ji-Woo counted only 12 fighters in the Reform Squadron. They had lost 8 pilots, 8 friends, 8 brave souls who had given their lives to protect Earth. The quantum charges detonated simultaneously. The Devastator's shields, designed to protect against external threats, could not stop the explosions from within. Massive internal explosions tore through the ship's reactor cores. One Devastator simply exploded, a brief sun appearing in space. The other two began to break apart, their structural integrity failing as secondary explosions rippled through their systems. But even as this victory was achieved, something far more terrible was unfolding across the solar system. The Cascade device had begun its work. Intelligence Officer Kindara was the first Valorian to understand what was happening. She was monitoring the communication network when the strange signal appeared. At first it seemed like a normal diplomatic transmission, but as it propagated through their systems, she noticed something wrong. Ships were reporting system failures, communication relays were going offline, and the failures were spreading, following the exact pattern of their faster-than-light communication network. "Commander Zalmorath," she called out urgently. "We need to shut down all communication systems immediately." Zalmorath looked at her in confusion. "What? Why?" "The transmission we received from the humans, it was not a message. It was a weapon. It is spreading through our network, destroying our ships from the inside. If we do not stop it now, it will reach the homeworld." But it was already too late. Across the Valorian fleet, ships began to fail catastrophically. The Cascade was not a conventional weapon. It did not destroy through force or energy. Instead, it rewrote the quantum states of technology, turning every ship, every computer, every piece of advanced equipment into a self-destructing bomb. A Valorian battleship near Jupiter suddenly shuddered. Its hull began to glow with an eerie light as the molecular bonds holding it together started to fail. Then it exploded not from weapons fire, but from its own structure tearing itself apart at the atomic level. Across the solar system, the same thing happened to hundreds of Valorian vessels. Zalmorath watched in horror as his fleet died. "All ships, emergency communication blackout. Shut down all faster-than-light systems. Do it now." Some ships managed to comply, cutting themselves off from the network. They survived, but they were isolated, cut off from command and control. Most ships were not fast enough. The Cascade consumed them. Kindara worked frantically at her console, trying to calculate the spread rate of the weapon. What she discovered made her feel physically sick. The Cascade had already propagated beyond the solar system. It was traveling through the Valorian communication network at faster-than-light speeds, jumping from relay to relay, spreading to every system connected to the collective's infrastructure. "Commander," she said, her voice hollow, "the weapon has reached our homeworld. It is already in our core systems." Zalmorath turned to look at her, his face showing an emotion rarely seen in a Valorian warrior: fear. "How long?" "Based on the propagation rate, the homeworld's infrastructure will begin failing in approximately 6 hours. The death toll will be in the billions. The Valorian collective as we know it will cease to exist within 3 days." At Earth Defense Command, Dr. Hae-Won Park stood frozen at her console, staring at the data streaming in. She had created the Cascade device as a deterrent, a weapon so terrible that merely possessing it might prevent war. She had never imagined it would actually be used, and she certainly had not anticipated how effectively it would spread. "Admiral," she said quietly, "the Cascade has spread beyond the invasion fleet. It has reached the Valorian homeworld. Their entire civilization is connected through quantum-entangled communications. The weapon is propagating through all of it." Admiral Kim closed his eyes. "Casualties?" "Unknown. But their population is estimated at over 3 trillion across multiple worlds. If even a fraction of their infrastructure fails..." She could not finish the sentence. Secretary General Kwan had been listening. Her voice was barely a whisper. "What have we done?" Commander Choi spoke up from his station. "Madam Secretary, we did what we had to do. They were going to destroy Earth. They deployed planet-killer weapons against us. This was self-defense." "Self-defense," Kwan repeated bitterly. "We defended ourselves by accidentally committing genocide against an entire civilization. Billions of innocent people who had nothing to do with the invasion decision are going to die because of what we did. Can we stop it?" Admiral Kim asked Dr. Park. She shook her head. "No, the Cascade is self-propagating. Once activated, it continues until it burns out naturally or runs out of quantum-entangled systems to infect. It was designed that way specifically so an enemy could not find a way to shut it down. The only way to stop it would have been to never activate it in the first place. A communication request came through from the Valorian flagship. Admiral Kim accepted it. Fleet Commander Zalmarath appeared on the screen, and for the first time since the invasion began, he looked defeated. "Admiral Kim," Zalmarath said, his voice hoarse, "I am transmitting an unconditional surrender. All Valorian forces will cease hostilities immediately. I am begging you, if you have any mercy, please stop your weapon. It is killing billions of my people. Civilians, children, people who never wanted this war." Admiral Kim wanted to look away but forced himself to meet Zalmarath's eyes. "Commander, I wish I could help you." "But the weapon cannot be stopped. It will continue until your entire communication network is destroyed or until it exhausts its energy naturally. I am truly sorry." Zalmarath's expression shifted from hope to despair. "Then we are all dead. My civilization, 10,000 years of history, countless trillions of lives across thousands of worlds, all destroyed because of my failure to listen to warnings. Because of the Supreme Overlord's arrogance. Because we thought we were superior." He paused. "You humans, you played the role of primitives so convincingly, and we believed it because we wanted to believe it, because it fit our view of ourselves as the greatest power in the galaxy. We did not want this," Secretary General Kwan said. "We wanted to be left alone. You forced this war upon us." "I know," Zalmarath replied, "and that makes it so much worse. We brought this extinction upon ourselves." The transmission ended. Captain Jiwoo Lee had returned to Mars base and was watching the command feed. She had lost 8 pilots today, friends she had trained with, flown with, laughed with, and now she learned that billions of Valorians were dying because of a weapon her people had created. Victory felt hollow and poisoned. Admiral Kim stood and addressed everyone in the command center. "I know what you are all thinking. I am thinking it too. We have won. But the cost of our victory is the destruction of an entire civilization. This is not something any of us wanted. But I need all of you to remember something. They came to our world. They threatened to..." The Valorian homeworld of Valoria Prime was a marvel of architecture and technology. Massive cities stretched across entire continents, connected by transport networks that moved millions of citizens every hour. Orbital stations ringed the planet like jewels, processing resources from across the empire. It was the heart of a civilization that had dominated the galaxy for 10,000 years. And in the space of 3 hours, it all began to die. The cascade reached the homeworld through the central communication hub, a massive station that coordinated all faster-than-light messages across the empire. The operators there noticed strange anomalies in their systems, but before they could investigate, the station simply stopped working. Then it started to tear itself apart. Supreme Overlord Rekthar was in his palace when the power failed. Emergency lights came on, but they flickered and died within seconds. He rushed to his command center, demanding explanations. His advisors had none to give. Communication with the orbital stations was lost. Ground-based systems were failing across the planet. Transportation networks stopped moving. Power generation facilities shut down? "What is happening?" Rekthar roared. "Fix this! Get our systems back online." One of his senior engineers tried to explain. "Supreme Overlord, it is not a simple system failure. All of our technology is experiencing quantum-level destabilization. The molecular bonds in our computers, our ships, our infrastructure, they are all breaking down simultaneously. I have never seen anything like this. It is as if reality itself is rejecting our technology." The palace shook. Rekthar looked up as cracks appeared in the walls. The building, constructed using advanced materials and held together by sophisticated structural systems, was failing. "Evacuate the palace," he ordered. "Get everyone out." But there was nowhere to evacuate to. Across Valoria Prime, buildings were collapsing. Orbital stations fell from the sky like burning stars. Transport ships crashed. Medical facilities lost power, their patients dying in darkness. Communication was impossible. Emergency services could not respond. The entire infrastructure of the advanced civilization was disintegrating. In the final moments before the palace collapsed completely, Rekthar understood. This was the humans' revenge. This was the price of his arrogance, of his refusal to listen to warnings, of his decision to deploy the planetary devastators. He had threatened to destroy their world, and in response, they had destroyed his entire civilization. The ceiling fell, and Supreme Overlord Rekthar, ruler of a galactic empire, died buried in the ruins of his own palace. In the solar system, Intelligence Officer Kindara watched the data streams from the homeworld until they abruptly stopped. The silence was absolute and terrifying. She knew what it meant. Valoria Prime was gone, and with it most of their government, their military command, their scientific institutions, everything that held the collective together. She turned to Fleet Commander Zalmorath, who sat in his command chair like a broken statue. "Commander, we have lost contact with the homeworld. All communication nodes in the core systems are offline. Based on the pattern of system failures, I estimate that 95% of our population is already dead or dying." Zalmorath did not respond for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was empty. "How many ships do we have left?" "Approximately 40 vessels in this system that managed to shut down their communication systems in time. Perhaps a few hundred more scattered across our former territory that were isolated enough to survive. Out of an empire that once numbered over 100,000 ships and personnel, 10,000, maybe 15,000 individuals total. Commander, the Valorian collective is extinct. We are all that remains of our species." A communication request came from Earth. Zalmorath accepted it, past caring about military protocol or pride. Secretary General Da Yun Quan appeared on the screen, her face showing deep sorrow. "Commander Zalmorath," she said gently, "I am deeply sorry for what has happened. This was never our intention. We created the Cascade device as a deterrent, never imagining we would use it, never anticipating how effectively it would spread through your systems." "Intention does not matter," Zalmorath replied. "Results are what matter. My civilization is dead. Trillions of lives, 10,000 years of history, art, culture, science, all gone. Because we attacked you. Because we were arrogant enough to think we were superior." "What will you do now?" Quan asked. "I do not know. My people are scattered, our ships damaged, our worlds destroyed. We have nowhere to go." Secretary General Quan took a deep breath. "Then I am extending an offer. We will provide asylum to all surviving Valorians. We have colony facilities on Mars that can be adapted to your species' needs. You will be given food, shelter, medical care, and protection. It is the least we can do after what has happened." Zalmorath stared at her in disbelief. "You would help us? After we tried to conquer your world? After we attempted to destroy your planet?" "Yes," Quan said simply. "Because the alternative is to let you die, and we have had enough death. Your leaders made terrible decisions, but the survivors deserve a chance to live. Besides, keeping you alive serves a practical purpose. You are witnesses to what happened here. The galaxy needs to know the truth of this war." Kindara spoke up. "Secretary General, why would you care what the galaxy thinks?" "Because we are not interested in conquest or domination," Admiral Kim said, appearing beside Quan on the screen. "We defended ourselves, but we take no pride in the results. The galaxy needs to understand that Earth wants peace, not war. But they also need to understand that we will defend ourselves if threatened." 2 weeks later, Captain Jiwoo Lee stood in the main observation dome of the newly established Valorian Refugee Center on Mars. Below her, she could see Valorian civilians going about their daily activities. They looked lost, traumatized, but alive. Earth had kept its promise, providing shelter and supplies for the survivors. Kindara joined her at the window. The Valorian intelligence officer had become the unofficial leader of her people, the one who organized them and helped them adapt to their new reality as refugees. "Thank you for coming," Kindara said quietly. "I know it must be difficult for you to be here after losing pilots in the battle." Jiwoo nodded. "It is difficult, but I wanted to see this place, to understand who we were fighting, to see the faces of the people whose civilization we destroyed. Do you regret it?" Kindara asked. "The way your people defended themselves?" Jiwoo was silent for a long moment. "I regret that the war happened at all. I regret every life lost, human and Valorian. But do I regret defending my home? No, your leaders gave us no choice. They came to our world with weapons designed to crack planets open. What were we supposed to do? Surrender and hope they would be merciful? No," Kindara admitted. "You did what any species would do when faced with extinction. You fought back with everything you had. I tried to warn my leaders that you were more dangerous than you appeared. They did not listen. That failure is on them, not on you." "But billions of innocent people died," Jiwoo said. "People who had nothing to do with the decision to invade Earth. Children, civilians. They died because of a weapon we created." Yes, Kindara said. And that truth will haunt your people forever. As it should. The power to destroy civilizations should come with the weight of knowing what that destruction means. Your leaders understand this. That is why they destroyed the weapon that killed my civilization. That is why they are helping us survive rather than finishing what they started. They stood in silence watching the Valorian refugees below. Finally, Kindara spoke again. What will happen now? To your people, I mean. You have proven you are the most powerful military force in this region of space. What will you do with that power? Jiwoo shook her head. I do not know. We never wanted to be a galactic power. We just wanted to be left alone. But I suppose that option is gone now. The entire galaxy knows what we did to the Valorian collective. Some will fear us. Some will try to ally with us. Others will see us as a threat that needs to be eliminated before we become too powerful. Then what will you choose? Kindara asked. Will you follow the path of the Valorian collective, using your power to dominate others? Or will you choose something different? We will try to choose something different, Jiwoo said. We will try to use our power to protect rather than conquer. But I cannot promise we will always succeed. Power changes people. Power changes civilizations. We will have to work very hard to remain who we are. In Earth Defense Command, Admiral Tae-Yang Kim stood with Dr. Hai-Wan Park and Secretary General Kwan, looking at a map of known galactic civilizations. The map was changing rapidly. Species that had been subject to Valorian rule were declaring independence. New alliances were forming, and at the center of it all, marked in green, was Earth. We are receiving diplomatic requests from 37 different species, Kwan reported. Some want protection from aggressive neighbors. Others want to establish trade relationships. A few are warning us to stay away from their territory, and several former Valorian subject worlds are asking us to help maintain order as they transition to independence. We cannot ignore them, Admiral Kim said. Whether we like it or not, we are now a major player in galactic politics. The power vacuum left by the Valorian collective is enormous.